Excited to talk about optimizing the digital supply chain. Like Craig said, I'm with Premier Digital, the Director of Growth and Business Development. A quick overview of what we're going to be talking about today. For those that aren't aware, Premier Digital is a media services and technology solution partner for the industry. And we think about supply chain all day, every day. And so we're excited to share some strategies and insights to help you optimize your workflows. These are some of the topics that we think about when we talk about digital supply chain, starting with rights and avails, going to orders and assets, how you can maximize your distribution, and then what happens post go live. So to start things off, step one of any digital supply chain conversation starts with rights and avails, right? There's a video that's going to be played after I finish that Eric put together that's going to go into some more details as it relates to avails and rights. But, best practices are always recommended to be followed. There are industry standards with, IDER, with Movie Labs, MEC for metadata, avails, having them in an EMA format. And of course, as a platform, also thinking about avails normalization. All these things, I cannot overemphasize how important they are. They're the foundation of everything that you build upon with your supply chain and ultimately feed everything into the workflow. So the more that you can have things standardized, have a team, have a partner, have systems and software to support this, the better off you're going to be and all of your partners are going to be as you build out your supply chain. Next, into the next step of the supply chain is all around orders and assets, right? And a common theme at Premier and throughout this presentation is how you can utilize portals and systems and technology to provide this process as efficiently as possible, right? Especially as it relates to order entry and some of the benefits around giving status, visibility, scalability, and how this all feeds into your workflow. Starting with the asset sharing and order entry side of the process, always recommend using a secure file sharing system. At Premier, we typically use Aspera Fastpex. There are a number of other out there, but the idea being provides security, making sure that the files are being sent to the right people. You can time box the availability of it and also provide better bandwidth constraints to the whole process when you're sharing files with your vendor or with your platforms. And once you've delivered the assets, order entry is the next step, and having a portal is so paramount, right? We've all done business through spreadsheets, through emails, and this can get complicated, right? So being able to use a portal, being able to log in with the appropriate team members, setting your unique IDs, identifying the platform or retailer that the content's going to, setting live dates, territories, and uploading the correct metadata. This portal serves as the source of truth, right? It provides the accountability, the visibility into the whole workflow, and kicks off your workflow to make sure that you, your vendor, and the platform have all the correct information to ensure that everything's going properly. One of the key benefits that I've already touched on with a portal and the order process is that it gives the status and visibility and transparency into the status of things, right? You're able to log in, you can search for a title, you can filter based on different parameters that you can see on the screen in Premier's portal, and it gives you that immediate real-time status and transparency. You can look to see what stage of the process is this order in? Are there any issues that have come up? You can see red flags that come up if there are any errors or things that are needed to be fixed. And ultimately, and most importantly, making sure that the order is still on track to deliver on time. We always at Premier recommend and provide proactive status reporting, but instead of kicking off an email, you can just go into the portal, check to see where things are at, and ensure that they're according to schedule and plan. And the next benefit to having a portal in your order process is all around scalability, right? As you're looking to grow, if you have a large catalog, if you have a complex catalog, maybe with different asset types, or multiple languages, you need something that's going to be flexible, that's going to adapt to your needs and ultimately help you to sustain your growth, right? If you have a certain title like the one on the screen, one title for one episode could have 12 different orders, could be going to multiple different retailers. So having that visibility, making sure that all the proper assets are tied to the correct order, going to the right platform is obviously very important and is all streamlined and optimized by going through a portal system. Everything in your workflow and your digital supply chain all feeds and is kind of centralized within this workflow. This is Premier's standard workflow. You deliver the assets to Premier. That's step one. Goes into localization to add any language assets, subtitles, closed captions. Goes through to QC to make sure you check the assets, make sure they're good to go. There aren't any audio issues or frames that dropped. Once that's okay, that gets handed over to the mastering team where they're going through and doing conformance checks, making edits to make sure that whatever spec that the platform is requiring, whatever assets are required, are all being adhered to. Goes over to packaging, pulls all the assets together, and delivers them out the door in a very streamlined, defined, organized, and fully transparent workflow so that you're able to hit your dates and monetize your titles in the most effective manner. As you've got your operations set, you've got your avails, you've got your orders. Now it's how can I maximize my potential here? How can I expand everything that I'm doing from both a content owner and a platform perspective? One of the best ways to do this is through an aggregation partner. Premier has a growing aggregation business where we have deals with about 40 of the top platforms in the transactional SVOD and AVOD space. And essentially, we provide a service to allow our content partners to get their content up onto various platforms that they are unable to sign a direct deal with. So this is a way to scale faster, to get quicker to market, to increase your revenue, your distribution, and your awareness. We're also getting more and more interest from platforms seeking Premier as an aggregator. This allows platforms to increase the number of clients they can see content from, to do it in a really thoughtful and effective manner, right? So that overhead's reduced, everything goes to the aggregator, one payment, all the day-to-day is handled by the partner to make sure that you're seeing more content, but doing it in a very scalable and effective way. And ultimately, as we're all very aware of, there's a lot of new services launching. It seems like every day there's new methodologies, there's new ecosystems that are evolving, there's new digital marketplaces that are launching where transactions can take place, and it's hard to keep up. Right? And so using an aggregator can help you to stay ahead of trends, make sure you're taking advantage of all the opportunities available to you, and growing your business in the best way possible. Once you've delivered all your titles to your vendor or the platform, what do you do next, right? And once titles are live, the first step that we recommend at Premier is an auditing function, right? How do I make sure my titles are up? Make sure that they're at, with the right price point, that they're in the right territories. Historically, it's a very manual process. You have to open up the various retailers, do some checks. Some cases, it's even impossible because of geo-blocks that the platforms have. So at Premier, we built a product to solve for a lot of these challenges that's called Storefront. Through Storefront, provide a number of different features and modules, but one of them is an auditing and exceptions product that allows you to track through certain things, namely availed, not live. So if your title's supposed to be up and supposed to be live, but it isn't, you're missing out on revenue, right? Storefront captures that and makes sure that you can reach out to make sure the title's live. if a title is live and not availed, meaning it shouldn't be live and it is, that's an issue, right? That could be that maybe it was supposed to be taken down and it hasn't been, or maybe it's been put up early, right? Those are things you want to catch and fix as soon as possible. And again, making sure that titles are priced correctly, the metadata is correct, and ultimately, if you negotiated placement or promotion by the platform, making sure that you're getting the right featured spot on that front page. If you're supposed to be on the newly added shelf, storefront captures that, gets a screenshot, you have that audit trail to make sure that you're getting everything that you were negotiated and that you're supposed to, and how that can then track back to performance and making sure that you're making data-informed decisions. And finally, on the post-go live part of the digital supply chain, royalty reporting, perhaps most important part of the whole process, right? Where you got your title up, let's make sure you get paid, and let's make sure that you have visibility into the status of your payment, how things are performing, and you can make then the data-informed decisions. At Premier, we have a portal that all of our clients that use our aggregation platform have access to, and gives visibility by date, by title, by retailer. You can drill down to specifics. You can export that and provide all kinds of visibility and transparency so that you can have, forecasting capabilities. You can understand what's performing and what isn't, so that as you go forward in your plans and as you start this digital supply chain over again with more titles, you can make sure you're focusing on the right areas that are driving your business forward. To kind of wrap up here and kind of summarize everything I just talked about, we always recommend following industry best practices. I think the video after this will go into some more of those around EMA avails and IDER and, following widely accepted formats, which is always important. Part and parcel with that is finding the right partner, right? Some people can do it all themselves, but as you grow and as you scale, having a vendor that can provide all these various parts of the supply chain, from avails and rights to servicing and workflow to aggregation, title management, and financial reporting. There's companies out there that do all those things. Premier has offerings in each of those categories, and we'd love to learn more about your needs and see if there's a way for us to help you. As a rights holder, always look into where you can use portals, systems to manage your process as effectively as possible. And as a platform and retailer, using defined formats, making sure you're communicating those to your clients and partners, and perhaps using a vendor as a back-end partner to ensure that you're doing things as streamlined as possible. That you don't have to deal with the day-to-day of QCing assets and certain things missing or not according to spec. Using a partner to do that will drive measurable benefits to your business. The goal here, and I think it was even in the description, is getting out of spreadsheets, getting out of emails, using systems and portals and technology to allow and enable scalability, to minimize errors, drive efficiencies in your business, and ultimately to allow your company to take advantage of all these amazing opportunities that we have in our industry, to grow your business and hopefully, be on a path to greatness. And so with that, kind of wraps up my supply chain overview. Here's my contact information. Would love to hear from you if you're interested in learning more about Premier or have any questions. But I'll switch out here and I believe now go over to Craig so we can play a video.
Thanks, Jake. That was a great introduction. Showed the possibilities of what happens when it all comes together. It's great when a plan comes together. Now we're going to go through a video that gives a little bit about the history of how we got to this point and a bit of a tutorial on all the different pieces. Just so everyone knows, when we go to the next session, you'll have to leave this session and re-enter the next session from the agenda. And there's a bunch of great programs coming up. The next one is going to be on contrasting with linear standards and the whole linear world from the more traditional sort of studio world. and hopefully everyone finds that interesting as well. So in the meantime, here is a video where Eric goes through and describes the process that got us here. Hopefully it is playing. Now it's playing.
This is really intended for folks that may not have heard of the MDDDF, and so many maybe smaller or newer entrants into the space. So it's at a real one-on-one level, and it's meant to introduce folks to what's out there, what's been done, and give you all a chance to maybe dip your toe into the water and then make a decision about what to do from there. And if you see something you have a question about or interested in, please feel free to follow up with me. All right, so first of all, here's our vision, kind of our North Star when we think about the digital supply chain, and this is for over-the-top video. And it really comes down to the concept that the supply chain should be an enabler, not an encumbrance to new ideas, new product features, into new launches. We find that very often, or too often anyway, a new idea, a new feature, or a new territory launch is kind of slowed down or encumbered by the realities of actually making it happen in the supply chain. And that's too bad. It's not good for our industry. It's not good for consumers when we can't leverage the technology that we have in the way that we want to, and take advantage of it to improve our offerings. So that's really our vision and our goal when it comes to this. So starting at the highest level here, this is sort of the way you might think of the supply chain working as you're just getting started in over-the-top video distribution. And this is kind of the way we thought about it about 2005, when I was working at my former employer, one of my former employers in this space, and we were launching an online video service. It was one of the first ones. I think it was the first one actually to go to a game console, and it was in high definition. And so I worked in the business side, and this is kind of the way we thought of it. We'd do deals with content providers. In Hollywood, they would send us files in nice orderly buckets called videos, metadata, and XML, and artwork in JPEG files. We'd send it through our black box ingestion engine, and we'd have a service, and it would be great, right? Everybody be able to watch Batman forever. Evidently, they can watch it forever. And money would be exchanged, and everybody would be happy and celebrating. What we found out, unfortunately, about a little too late, it was about 2 weeks before our launch, was that it actually looks more like this. A swirling vortex of Excel spreadsheets, Word documents, PDF files, videotapes, all surrounded by people, Excel spreadsheets, and servers. And so in order to get our launch off, and as many of you may have experienced or are experiencing now, if this is kind of new to your space, is that your product launch or your service launch, that thing's gonna happen on the date you said it's gonna happen. And that's because you've got PR and marketing, and a lot of folks are depending on you. Your deals are already set to establish that that's when it's gonna happen. So what happens is you hire a bunch of people, or the people that you have, you put them to work in operations. And so, you find a way to get it done, and you give up your holidays and your weekends and your nights and your family and everything else, and it happens. And there's lots of bruises, skinned knees, broken bones along the way, but you get the thing launched, and then you're in the air. Well, over time, you figure out a way to get things a little bit more structured, and so at least you have some predictability. It's still a swirling vortex, but you know how big it is, and you know what kind of stuff it's spinning off, and you're able to have people in the right place to catch it, I guess. And so that kind of, that stabilization happens. And then you want to do something else. You want to launch in a new territory or a group of territories, or you have some new features, or you want to change all of your artwork for all of your titles. And so you set a date to launch, you announce to the press, you do a bunch of marketing, and then about a month before you launch, you realize that you've got a whole bunch more work to do on the operations side that you didn't realize was going to be so much work, and this happens. Your swirling vortex gets bigger, and it gets surrounded by more people, more spreadsheets, and more servers. So part of the problem here is that your operations is already in the air. You're flying kind of with a broken wing and half an engine, but you can't land to go fix it. And so that's why, like, I'd encourage anybody who has not launched yet and you're watching, take operations seriously, take supply chain seriously, because it's way harder to fix when you're in the air than before you start. Nevertheless, we have some ideas, and we've actually made a lot of improvements on fixing this. So how do you fix it? So this is a slide really just to kind of introduce to those of you who don't know about it, the Movie Labs Digital Distribution Framework, MDDF. And I'll go into some details about the individual specs and standards on our presentation here. But at a high level, it's a set of best practices and standards that have been agreed upon by the ecosystem of studios, service providers, and retailers or by a set of them anyway, in this industry, have been developed by these organizations to meet the needs that they have and the use cases that have been identified. It includes avail or rights metadata, content metadata. That's the display metadata that you see when you open somebody's distribution service, asset tracking metadata, and it's in consistent formats that everybody has agreed to, and in that way, it enables automation. So you can have machines talking to machines because they know what to expect, as opposed to people who have to interpret all the stuff they're getting. All right, so as I mentioned, it's developed as a collaboration between trade associations like Movie Labs, OTT.X, EMA, and DEG, major studios, retailers, and video platforms. It's been in use and evolving for over 10 years. The first specification that was kind of part of this was actually common metadata, which then grew into the MEC, the Media Entertainment Core, and that's the display metadata. It's an XML spec. I'll talk a little more about it, but that was around 2008 that we started working on that. And it's been adopted by major studios for TVOD, SVOD, and AVOD, including many of the ones that y'all are very familiar with: Amazon, Fandango, Google, Microsoft, major studios like Disney, Lionsgate, NBCU, Paramount, Warner Brothers, Sony Pictures, and there's more. In fact, every studio, whether it's major or independent, is using the avail specification because it's a requirement for some of the major platforms. So it's very well adopted. All right, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about each of the specifications, just to give you a highlight about what they are. And again, this is just to kind of get you started, and there's a whole bunch more information available that I'll point you to, and you can get involved with some of our working groups in the supply chain to learn more. Okay, so first of all, EMA, OTT.X avails, and title lists. So it's essentially the purpose of it is to communicate between a licensor and a licensee what has been licensed. And that can be in an SVOD use case. So it would be, in that case, we would call it a title list. There's different fields that are not relevant in SVOD for TVOD. SVOD, you don't care about the wholesale price. The start and the end date, the windows, are less relevant also in SVOD, but they're available in TVOD. That also obviously meets the requirements of TVOD. It's been widely adopted. It was first released in 2013, and it's available for the use cases, the business models of AVOD, SVOD, and TVOD. There is an XML format, and we encourage all of our members and those in the ecosystem to take a careful look at it, because it will enable a lot more features than the Excel version, and also reduce the friction that is often accompanies Excel. But there is an Excel version, and pretty much everybody's using that. One great thing about Excel is that it's human readable. And so we'll make this deck available, and there's a link in there to the specification. All right, so let's talk about metadata. There's Captain metadata. And Metadata is about a couple of different specifications. I guess here we're just talking about display metadata. This is a really, really well burned in specification. It's been around since 2008. It's a subset of common metadata, and it's the really the most important fields that you would need if you're launching a service or if you have a service to distribute video content, and the definitions around them. So title, synopsis, contributors, ratings, all that stuff has been defined. And so what I've found in the experience that I've had with services that are launching is one of the things that we spend a whole bunch of time on in one of my former roles is defining our metadata. And what our display was going to look like. And I mean, literally, we hours and working sessions and offsites to get this all figured out with engineers and product people. And in the end, if we would have just gone to the MEC, we would have been done, because this is, there's everybody from Google, Amazon has already kind of thought through a lot of this over a long period of time. So at least take a look at this. It can save you a lot of time. It's an XML specification also, and it enables a lot of automation in that way. All right, next, delivery manifest. So I'll talk a little bit more about how this fits in when I get to kind of how this stuff all connects. But this is a way that a service provider or a studio, someone who is sending content to someone who is receiving content, can describe what they're delivering and how to connect it with what you're supposed to do with it and how you're supposed to display it. So it's a little bit like a delivery manifest that you might get if you were receiving an online order and you got a box and you open it up and you wanted to make sure all the stuff you ordered was in it. You look at the list of the stuff that they sent you. So that's kind of what this is for. And I think that will become, if you are currently receiving lots and lots of assets associated with your avails or your rights, then you understand how valuable it would be to know what things you got versus the things that someone said they sent you or that you ordered, so you can find out if you're missing anything. Sometimes you get stuff that you didn't order, and that's good to know that too before you publish it, and you may not have rights for it. So this is also a mature specification. It's widely adopted. It's used by the major players in the space, and it's a really in-depth specification. All right, so this is how I'm going to describe kind of how these pieces connect. So we've got avails, we've got display metadata, we've got a manifest, and we've got some assets. So I'm looking at this from the perspective of a digital retailer or a platform who has avails sent to them, so they have the right to publish something, and they're receiving assets, and then they're going to get them published. So, but the flip side of the coin is the studio. All right, so start off with rights data. So we talked about this. This is your avail. So the red text on these slides is the specification and the best practice that has been developed and is part of MDDF. So you've got avails data that tells you what you've got rights to, where you can distribute it, which territories, when you can make it available, when you have to stop making it available, how much you have to pay for it on a wholesale basis back to your licensor. That's for TVOD, obviously. SVOD doesn't have a wholesale price at an individual title level. There's a lot more to it than that. There's over 150 fields in the Excel spreadsheet, but at a high level, that's what it does. Okay, so then you've got your rights data. Then your studio partners start sending you assets. So you're getting video files and artwork. You're getting some metadata. Maybe you're getting dubs. That's what that green wave is. Those are dubs and subtitles. And you're getting some metadata representing that here in XML. And so the Media Entertainment Core MEC is the specification, the standard specification for that display metadata. Okay, so the issue here is, as you can probably see, and as I've mentioned earlier, you have lots of assets, and they're showing up on your Aspera server, or maybe you've got a drive with a bunch of them on there. And you could have thousands of them, and you've got rights data, and it's over here in a spreadsheet, and you don't know how to connect them, right? Because, well, you've got a bunch of file names here, and you can kind of read through your spreadsheet and look for the file that's named Eric's Great Movie, and maybe you can find it, but you've got thousands of them. So it's pretty tough to connect this. People have tried and are still using naming conventions to do this. And so you can set up a rule with all your partners and say, use a title, then have an underscore, then have your language, then an underscore, then a territory, then an underscore, then all of that is the way that people have done it. But there's a lot of problems with that. First of all, it's really tough to get it right. And secondly, if you're doing it and other people are doing it, there's no way they're all doing it the same way. So I mean, studios or service providers have to do it a bunch of different times. So I can see you're all nodding on you've been there. So how do we resolve this? That's where the IDs are super important. We have IDs in the rights data, and we also have IDs in our manifest. So the manifest is the thing that tells you what you got and what to do with it. And so the way we connect our avails with our assets is through the IDs that are in these specifications. So you've got an ALID, and that is a topic for another lesson. But suffice to say, that is how you connect what your right is, what you have the right for, with the assets that you're receiving. And it works like this. So now you know what to do with the stuff you have. All right, so we talked about avails, delivery manifest, and MEC for display metadata. There's a few other specifications and best practices. We have media delivery core, and this is a new spec that was just completed last year. And this is a way that allows the ecosystem to describe and communicate about detailed level asset ordering and tracking. So if I'm a retailer and when I publish in Switzerland, I want German, French, Spanish subtitles and dubs, and I want those as separate components to be able to connect and create a user experience that allows users to shift between them. I can convey that with this specification. On the other hand, when I'm maybe publishing in Mexico, I only want to pay for Latin, Spanish subtitles and dubs. And it's not worth it for me to get the German, Portuguese, Italian, whatever else. So I can communicate those differences through this, which is important. The way that's done now often is with sticky notes, and I mean, there's whole teams that are devoted to keeping track of and trying to remember what the requirements for each retailer are at the various studios. So this can really help with that. Content ratings. This is something that I think there was some discussion about earlier in the panel that we had on international distribution and expansion. Content ratings are like really, really important when you're distributing globally, and it's important to get the right ones. These won't help you get the right ones, but it will tell you what they are, what the right ones are. And so we've worked and we continue to work with the industry and with those that are distributing internationally to update these. They change. There's new ratings added. There's new reasons added. There's new regulatory bodies that get added. And so we continually work on updating this. And you know, it's a great source as you're going international to consult as to know what the rating systems are and what the ratings values are. QC vocabulary, also released last year, or a major update released to it last year. When you're QCing video and to publish it, there's invariable things that go wrong. There are many things that can go wrong. We added 300 things to this list just last year. And it would be great if we all used the same words for them. So if someone said ghosting, you might know what it meant, as opposed to some other form of glitch that you might see. So using a word like glitch is not super specific. We'd prefer to use aliasing. We had a great time with this QC vocabulary group. It was very geeky, and we enjoyed talking about strange terms like snitch and crackle. The last one is IDER. So IDER is not part of I don't know, maybe it is part of MDDF. Let's just say it is for now. I'm sure will tell me. But it's a super important identifier, and it's the only registry that we actually have for audio-visual works that are in the long form space, and actually short form. It gives us the ability to connect whatever we get in terms of a title or an asset. If we have an IDER for it, we can connect it with the IDER registry and confirm or know what it is. And that's hugely valuable, especially when you want to connect with other services and other platforms outside of your own. It's been a big benefit to our industry, and we're 100% very grateful that it's there, and really want to promote it for all of those that are entering the industry now, to learn about IDER and reach out to get some more information, and we'll definitely point in the right direction. Let's see. So I think I'm about done. I've got a little more time. These are some more resources. As I mentioned, I'm going to send this deck out to everybody. We did record this as well. When I send it out, you'll be able to get to these individual websites and links. Feel free to email me and head out to the movielabs.com site and the OTT.X.org site. All right, so with that, I think I have time for some questions. Does anybody want to ask me a question?
Okay, so he's not live, so we can't ask him a question. But so the next session's ready to go. I'm going to hop over there. We all have to leave this meeting and go there, so I'll wait for people to reaccumulate it again there. Thanks again, Jake, and see you in the next session.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Craig.